Hey everyone, what's up? So just reading an article about that guy who created the website, the Silk Road, that deep web black market where you could pretty much buy any narcotic or anything that was illegal. I guess I mean murder for hire and all of that. I actually knew someone who showed me the site and you know said if I ever wanted to get into mercenary work, that's the way to go. And good thing I chose a different line of work. uh, but I saw that they sentenced him. I'm reading the article, and they sentenced him to life. And I haven't been following this too closely, so I'm gonna actually leave this to you guys in the comments to discuss about this. But I just wanted to kind of throw out some of my thoughts on what I read in the article, and I'll make sure to link the article in the description below. But there were some things that, like, I'm not 100% sure if the sentence was fair to fit the crime. I mean, one of the things that really kind of irked me in the article was, and I hate it when prosecution does this, they paraded the letters and the parents, saying, oh, if it wasn't for your website, my son or daughter wouldn't have gotten a hold of those drugs and overdosed in such a quantity. And that right there, I had to say, whoa, stop. I walk out my front door and take a drive, and if I have the money, I could get any quantity of narcotic that I want to use. It is not his fault that your son or daughter is a drug addict. I mean, that'd be like me suing, Penthouse or Playboy for giving me carpal tunnel. They chose to use those drugs. They chose to snort that up their nose or inject that in their body or whatever. They chose to do it. And they chose to do it in excess. Well, if it wasn't so easily accessible. Okay. So if I understand correctly, this is how it worked. Mind you, I've never purchased anything off the Silk Road. I've only ever saw the site on a friend's computer once. And I didn't want anything to do with it because I was on probation and I told them to shut it down. But you would scroll through the pages. Like, let's say you wanted marijuana. So you'd scroll through the pages and pick out whatever crazy name marijuana, whatever they have now, dog's leg, Girl Scout cookie. I don't know. They got so many fucking names. For all I know, there could be a strand out there called ass crack. I mean, there's crack. But there could be, I don't know. I'm just being stupid. But, so, then you had to order it. You had to create this account with Bitcoins. And you had to pay with Bitcoins. And then the payment had to process. And then they had to ship you the drugs. So then you had to wait however long kind of like eBay, if you paid for expedited shipping, whatever, you still had to wait 24 hours at least from the time that you decided you wanted to buy the drugs to get the drugs. Stick with me, I know I'm kind of taking a long road to get here. You had to wait 24 hours. I can go get drugs and go get an ounce of weed in 24 minutes. Dude, I could probably step out my front door and yell down the block, "Yo, who got some bud?" And I'm sure somebody would answer and be like, "Yo, I got you." So you can't use that as part of your sentencing. Like, that is unfair. You can't blame him for the people who chose to buy, because it was their choice to use the drug. Yes, he created the place for this to happen, and that he is guilty of. He created a place where people could anonymously sell illicit products and things of manner and services and goods that were not essentially legal. First off, if you're going to do something like this, guys, he got caught in a public library in San Francisco. First off. Don't do it in the United States. Go to a country, one, where there's no extradition. Two, go to a country where most of the goods on your website are legal. I mean, everybody knows I'm all for the legalization of marijuana. I'm actually going to be doing a legalization video. But this really got to me, this article and the way, she was like, well, you were a regular dread pirate, Robert, and rah, rah, rah. And I mean, that's literally, she's quoted saying that in the article. It's just, it's ridiculous. Apparently the Department of Justice, told the judge that, we want you to send a message to anyone else. Well, apparently there's already other sites up. That there is already a Silk Road 2 evolution, and the currently largest dark web black market to survive law enforcement attacks called Agora. I've never heard of any of these sites. I don't know anything about it. I'm not that kind of guy to, deals with the deep web and the black market. If that's your thing, then, that's fine. I'm not judging you. Okay, here it is. Judge Forrest sided with the prosecution on that point, to arguing that she needed to create a strong deterrent for the next Dread Pirate Roberts. For those considering stepping into your shoes, they need to understand without equivocation that there will be severe consequences, Forrest said. End quote. First off, I really don't know why they even try. You're never gonna catch everybody. And, so Here's another part I was talking about the parents. In an emotional statement at the hearing, the parents of drug users who overdosed and died from the drugs purchased from the Silk Road called for a long sentence for Albrecht. I strongly believe my son would still be alive today if Mr. Albrecht had never created the Silk Road, said one father whose 25-year-old son had died from an overdose of heroin, requesting the most severe sentence the law will allow. Really? Maybe you just need to come to grips with the fact that your son was a drug addict and that they were a junkie. And that maybe if you would have paid attention and probably tried to help them, your son wouldn't have been on the internet ordering heroin. Maybe would have been ordering you a new lawnmower for Father's Day. This is something that pisses me off. Parents are looking to blame someone else for their shortcomings and not be held accountable for being a bad parent. Do you ever think that maybe it was your fault why your kid is messed up? Do you ever think that maybe it was your fault that you do not know your child? Instead of blaming this guy for creating a website where people could buy illegal and illicit things. Okay, I'm not saying what he did was right. I am not saying that this guy, who's a 31-year-old guy from Texas, did that it was right what he did. He, by no stretch of the imaginations, he laundered money through his website. They laundered money. He created a space for to launder money through the website. He created a website that allowed the trafficking of narcotics. Yes, that is illegal by the law in the United States. You know? I just don't agree with the sentence. I think 20 years would have been quite a fair sentence for this guy. You know, there's also accusations of drug enforcement agencies, administration, that two Secret Service and Drug Enforcement Administration agents involved in the investigation of the Silk Road allegedly stole millions of dollars of Bitcoin from the site. And he's also ordered to pay $180 million restitution. Whatever. I think the sentence is a little too severe, and I understand they're trying to make an example of him. But does that mean every single person who does this, they're going to get life as well? No. They're going to make a media spectacle, we're tough on crime, and then the next guy, or as they are calling the Dread Pirate Roberts, is going to come along, and he's going to cut a deal. I am fairly certain that this guy could have taken down a bunch of drug traffickers with him, but he didn't. So, as far as I'm concerned, this dude, he did something, he had an idea, it went in a direction that he probably wasn't totally kosher with, or that he intended, but he saw an opportunity and tried to make some money. I can't knock him there. But he did it in the United States. He broke the law in the United States, and therefore he must pay for his crime. But giving the guy life? Really? Life? He himself did not murder anybody. Life sentences are reserved for, like, terrorists, murderers, you know, those psychopaths like Dahmer and Bundy, you know, or, you know, death penalties or whatever. People who could commit treason, you know, he didn't do any of these. He has a kingpin charge, a couple of other charges out of New York. Where were they? Where was the list of charges here? Um, oh, there was a thing about murder here. Hold on one second. The defense's arguments about Albrecht's character and idealistic motives were also undercut by accusations that Albrecht had paid for the murder of 6 people, including a potential informant and blackmailer. Those accusations never became formal charges. In Albrecht's case, 5 out of 6 of the murder for hires appear to have been part of a lucrative scam targeting Albrecht with no actual victims. But those murder accusations nonetheless deeply colored Albrecht's trial and strongly influenced his sentence. Um, I find, quote, I find there is ample and unambiguous evidence that Albrecht commissioned 5 murders to protect his commercial enterprises. Forrest said, leaving out one alleged attempted murder for which Albrecht was charged in a different case. So apparently he was charged for attempted murder, whether that was found or not. They have not said. But there was something about... But he hasn't been convicted of attempted murder. He didn't actually murder someone. So I don't see how life would be the fair sentence here. Okay, here it is. Albrecht's sentencing likely puts the final seal on the saga of the Silk Road, the anarchic underground market, the 31-year-old Texan created in early 2011. At its peak, the dark web site grew to a sprawling smorgasbord of every narcotic imaginable. Before Albrecht was arrested in a public library in San Francisco in October of 2013, 18 months later he was convicted in a Manhattan court on 7 felony charges, including conspiracies to traffic in narcotics and launder money, as well as a kingpin charge usually reserved for the leaders of organized crime groups. 2 of those charges were deemed redundant and dropped by the prosecution just days before the sentencing, though that technical change to the charges didn't lessen Albrecht's mandatory minimum sentence or his ultimate punishment. He's 31. You'd have given him 20 years. He'd have been an old man, and that would have been it. Could have lived out his life. He'd have learned his lesson. I don't know. I just don't agree. I don't agree with our justice system. I think it's really broken. I think some of these judges are... I think they are too consumed with themselves, and I think how we pick judges really, and how long a judge sits a term, needs to change. I don't know how much a judge is paid. But I know that judges were lawyers. That you have to be a lawyer to be a judge, I believe. I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't know much about them. But a lot of the judges that I meet... So I've met some judges, and I've stood before some judges. Some that were really fair, and that had not let the power of the gavel and the robe go to their head. Whereas this judge is, referring to Ulbricht as a Dread Pirate Roberts. I kind of look at Judge Forrest, was it Forrest or Forrest? Forrest. Judge Catherine Forrest, as the Judge Dredd. I am the law. That movie, I don't know, some of you probably never saw it, younger people. And there was a remake of it, but, Sylvester Stallone, I am the law. It was my bad Sylvester Stallone impersonation. So, I don't know. Give me your thoughts on this, guys. This is about a 20-minute video. Thanks for sticking it out. Discuss.